Team Obama must be high-fiving each other as Mitt Romney's trip to London descends into a full-blown Romney shambles. That's not me talking. That's the editor of The Sun, one of Rupert Murdoch's British tabloids. The editor of the Daily Mail tweets, "Serious dismay in Whitehall at Romney debut. Worse than Sarah Palin. Total car crash." Two of the kinder verdicts. Hashtag Romney shambles. That same editor later tweeted, "Another verdict from one Romney meeting, apparently devoid of charm, warmth, humor, or sincerity. Hashtag Romney shambles. Mitt hits the fan." A columnist for the Times of London tweets, "We're the special relationship, the easy-peasy bit of U.S. foreign relations. How will he deal with China?" A correspondent for The Telegraph writes, "Mitt Romney is perhaps the only politician who could start a trip that was supposed to be a charm offensive by being utterly devoid of charm and mildly offensive." And Lucy Jones of The Telegraph writes, "Mitt Romney is Wasik. There's one thing Romney could learn while he's in Britain this week. Some manners." So what did Mitt Romney do to be called worse than Sarah Palin? First, he said the London Olympics might have some serious problems.
You know, it's hard to know just how well it will turn out. There are a few things that were disconcerting. The stories about the private security firm not having enough people, the supposed strike of the immigration and customs officials, that obviously is not something which is encouraging.
Here is what one Fox News Romney supporter thought of that answer.
What Romney answered in that question is unbelievable. It's beyond human understanding. It's incomprehensible. I'm out of adjectives. All Romney has to do, say nothing. It's like a guy in the 100-meter dash. All he has to do is to finish. He doesn't have to win. And instead, he tackles the guy in the lane next to him and ends up disqualified. I don't get it.
Here is how United Kingdom Prime Minister David Cameron responded.
We are holding an Olympic Games in one of the busiest, most active, bustling cities anywhere in the world. I mean, of course, it's easier if you hold an Olympic Games in the middle of nowhere.
You see, in the United Kingdom, Utah, where Romney ran the Olympic Games, is considered the middle of nowhere. And here is the response from the always entertaining mayor of London and 60,000 people he happened to be chatting with in Hyde Park.
I hear there's a guy called MITT Romney who wants to know whether we're ready. He wants to know whether we're ready. Are we ready? Are we ready? Yes, we are.
And then there was the small problem of Mitt Romney not having every name ready when he needed them.
Mr. Leader, I look forward to our conversation this morning.
The Daily Mail's James Chapman again tweeted another Romney triumph as he forgets Ed Miliband's name. Mitt Romney then showed that he has much to learn about the very basics of conducting foreign policy.
I appreciated the insights and perspectives of the leaders of the government here and opposition here, as well as the head of MI6.
MI6 is the British government's secret intelligence agency. Mitt Romney was not supposed to tell anyone he met with the head of MI6. The Guardian writes, for our American readership, this isn't like bragging you just met David Petraeus. The British take on the National Secret Intelligence Service comes with an extra heavy dollop of the whole secret thing. The very existence of MI6 was not officially acknowledged until 1994. James Chapman's take on that one? Romney blunders again. Do we have a new W on our hands? Joining me now, Crystal Ball, co-host of MSNBC's The Cycle, and Howard Dean, former Vermont governor and former DNC chairman. Howard Dean, Charles Krauthammer is out of adjectives. Do any come to mind to you about how this tour is going for Mitt Romney?
Yeah, this is bad. I mean, it's pretty unusual. I am a little surprised they didn't take a foreign trip to the Cayman Islands and Switzerland while they were at it. I mean, this is really... this is pretty bad. I mean, first of all, insulting the British Prime Minister is really bad. It's one thing for Boris Johnson, who everybody knows is a cut-up and an interesting guy to get in. But when the Prime Minister thinks it's necessary to call out the candidate who's running for President of the United States, this is not a good thing. I wish I could be more charitable, sort of. But I mean, this is pretty bad. I haven't seen a bad trip like this for a long time. And I have to say that George W. Bush never did anything like this.
Worse than W, you're saying.
Crystal?
Yeah. I can't imagine George W. Bush doing this. I really can't imagine that. He at least had some sophistication about foreign affairs. This is shocking to me.
Crystal, this is one of those days where I have to say I appreciate the spirit of the British press. They are willing to step right up there and say what they mean.
Yeah, and you grabbed some amazing material when I was prepping for this segment. I could have gone on for hours because there were so many fantastic tweets and quotes and headlines and so much material to work with. But honestly, for Mitt Romney, I mean, there were essentially two goals for this trip, right? To sort of run around looking vaguely presidential and to sort of slyly remind people of his own Olympic success. And in one day, he's managed to kill both of those things by insulting everyone and looking the opposite of presidential, looking like he can't even handle, you know, the relationship that should have been the easiest, going to the Olympics, going to our friends. It really is an incredible thing. And it also reminded me, oddly, of that moment when he was in Pennsylvania and he was offered the cookies from the local bakery. And he didn't know in that moment that it would be inappropriate to suggest that they'd come from the local 7-Eleven. It's that same kind of a deal. You don't go into someone else's house and insult them and criticize them. I feel like he was trying to get an A and show that he had done his homework and he knew what was going on with the Olympics because that's something he knows about, and really just didn't have any sense that this would be a bad place to go with his answer.
Howard Dean, I find the Sarah Palin comparison that the British media is making appropriate. And it started to occur to me last night, actually, when I was listening to his answers to Brian Williams' interview. I began to think that sounds a lot like Sarah Palin. We made some fun of it here on the show, that he would string together these words that technically are sentences but have absolutely no meaning. And if when Sarah Palin was doing that, pretty much everyone called her on that. Mitt Romney seems to be getting away with exactly the same thing. And it seems to me there's some kind of double standard going on here because he's a well-dressed man.
Well, I'm gonna defend Romney slightly on that one. I don't think you can compare. I mean, Romney is a fairly sophisticated guy who has a significant amount of accomplishment in his life. Don't think you can compare him to Sarah Palin. But his performance is pretty appalling. I mean, I don't know anybody who goes to meet the leader of the opposition and can't remember his name. I have not yet seen a candidate for president of the United States who goes and insults probably our closest ally in the world. This is just—it's not a big deal because this is about Olympics and it's not about plotting to invade Iraq. But it's not very reassuring. I think Romney's problem is that he's not well informed. I think, and he's doesn't lack substance. His problem is that he wants to be president so badly that all he does is get briefed, and he doesn't appear to have an original thought. And that I think he does, but he doesn't appear to have one. And this is a very bad start.
And Lawrence, I think to your point,
go ahead.
To your point about the Sarah Palin comparison, there's so many times where he's asked a direct question and he doesn't even come close to answering it. He's not addressing the substance of the question at all. And I think that's when he gets into his word salad territory, right, where you're going, where is he going with this? And it's sort of an intentional attempt to be vague and not put forward anything of substance. And that way, I think there is an appropriate Sarah Palin comparison.
Howard Dean and Crystal Ball, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Coming up, 1 million voters in Pennsylvania think they'll be able to vote on November 6th. They're wrong. The new voter ID law will not accept their IDs as valid IDs, and they don't know it. Charles Blow joins me to discuss voter suppression. And in the rewrite tonight, Rush Limbaugh talks about drumsticks in a way that makes you wonder with Rush, when is a drumstick just a drumstick? If your worst nightmare is hearing Rush Limbaugh use the word penis repeatedly, you're gonna need the mute button for tonight's rewrite.